everyone. Happy Saturday. This is CLB and Dr. Manny this morning coming to you live from WLVS Radio in Washington, D.C. We are super excited. It's a new month. It's the last month of the year.
Yeah, 2016 is over. It's been a ride of a year. We just need to go ahead and wrap it up and get ready for the new one.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what this series is all about. So first, before we dive into our conversation, we are broadcasting live on Facebook, on CLBlive.tv. Dr. Manny's also broadcasting, which is awesome. And we are also broadcasting directly to you through Listen Vision. So we're pulling you into the conversation. So if you've joined us this morning, thank you so much for carving out some time to join us for this fantastic exploration. We're calling it an interactive and intellectual exploration of Season 3's most notable moments. If you weren't aware, Season 3 of the show has wrapped. Last week's episode was a Thanksgiving episode. It was good, right? Was it tasty?
Turkey episode. It was a turkey episode. I feel gluttonous just watching. You watch it and you get so much tyrosine in your system.
You're so funny. Yeah, last week's episode was a good morning, Chirag. He's over on Facebook. Yeah, last week's episode was Thanksgiving. We took a break for the holiday weekend, but we didn't forget about you, our wonderful treasured viewers. We put together a montage for you of the power of thought with Dr. Manny and some awesome guests. It was a fantastic conversation. I hope you caught that conversation last week. And so what we decided to do is, instead of taking a whole month off from the show, why not start an annual Winter Wonderland series?
Ta-da.
Wonder!
And if I'm in Winter Wonderland, it has to be twisted because that's the way I'm wired. So when CLB was coming up with the plan for it, I was like, yo, when I think Wonderland, I think Alice.
I know, right?
And then she was like, well, I was thinking the same thing, so that made it easier to negotiate.
Yes.
And then from there, I was like, well, I also think Matrix. And then she looked, and you were like, well, duh, Neo.
Yeah, exactly. I call him Neo. So we are going to take you on an exploration. What I've noticed that happens is, well, before I jump into that, please participate. You can join on Facebook Live at CLBlive.tv. You can also use the hashtag CLBLive on Twitter, on Instagram, Google+. We'll do our best to track your comments, but if you want some real-time interaction, join us on Facebook Live. I think it's awesome that we're finally doing that.
Yeah, man.
Yes. And when I get a moment, I'll flip so I can share it to my profile as well, so we can include everyone. So let's talk about Wonderland. There's a play on the word, and of course, my tablet's acting crazy. So let me pull it up. I want to read this to set the tone, okay?
Go for it.
It says, wonder is an emotion comparable to surprise that people feel when perceiving something very rare or unexpected, but not threatening. It has historically been seen as an important aspect of human nature, specifically being linked with curiosity and the drive behind intellectual exploration. So you're invited to join us, Dr. Manny and I, for a stroll through our Winter Wonderland. This is going to be a 3-part interactive intellectual exploration of Season 3's most notable moments. And today we're starting with the first episode. The first episode of the season was way back in May. We had 11 featured guests. It was my first time broadcasting from Listen Vision Studios. And Dr. Manny was a part of that experience. And the reason we chose this topic for today's hashtag relationship matters, for today's theme, is because they do matter. Just like mindset matters, relationships also matter, because the people that we surround ourselves with are the people that will create our circumstance, help shape our circumstance.
Exactly.
So, yeah. You want to share anything before we dive into the first clip?
Yeah, I have to have a squirrel moment. Like, from where I'm sitting, there's so many lights and so much stuff, and you know how I get about that. So I kind of need to show everyone, like, what I'm looking at.
Of course.
Can I do that?
Do that.
All right,
Pull it out.
I'm gonna take it off of this, and like, hopefully it doesn't injure anyone.
Yeah.
But check this out. This view is fantastic. Okay, so.
You gotta turn the camera.
Oh no, I'm not gonna do all that.
Oh, you want to see what they see?
Yeah.
This is our first time doing Facebook.
And then
Live,
our
so
production, guys, Mike, can you see Mike?
MikeIsTheBomb.com. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Okay.
IsTheBomb.com.
and lights. And so there's lights. It's like a little rotisserie feel. Okay, I'm good. I'm done.
You got the pan out of me, the squirrel moment.
Yeah, I got it out of my system now. So what I want to talk about is the importance of relationships and how relationships essentially shape your reality.
Yeah. Let's show the clip first.
Hit it. All right,
you
go
want
ahead.
To show the clip
I thought you said roll, so roll.
He wants to dive into the rabbit hole already.
Okay.
It's okay though. There are no rules in this Wonderland. So
yeah, twisted sister.
Let's show the clip, the first clip, and then we'll dive into relationships.
Yeah.
So we're going to start this conversation. We're talking about relationships.
Keep your microphone facing you. So when it turns, I want them to really hear you.
Okay.
And what they're hearing is just like what's going past the microphone.
Okay, gotcha.
Closer. Over the last few years, the last couple of years to be exact, and how they have helped me create my reality. For sitting right here in the studio today, each one had a direct impact on that. And so my selfie quote, which is going to start this conversation, if you're unmuted, just go ahead and mute your mic, okay? Because if we do it from this end, you won't be able to unmute. Remember that first episode, Mike? Yeah, so here's the quote. If you realize the impact building relationships has on your business, you will make relationship building your business. And here's my commentary. There's an urgent need to find a new normal in today's society. In a world of hyper-connectivity, we are more disconnected than we have ever been in history. For the most part, people are no longer seen as human. And as a result, no longer being treated as human. We need people. Point blank, period, end of story. We need people to help us create our story. We need people to help facilitate us on this journey of life. We cannot do it on our own. So when we choose to make it our mission to align ourselves with the right people, we remove the limitations of our own thinking and we unleash the floodgates of abundance. Now, as entrepreneurs, heart-centered entrepreneurs at that, we get online especially, but even offline, as James well knows, and Regina. And we have a mission. We want to offer a product or a service, and surely we have valuable products and services, but the thing is, should we be leading with this? Because the first thing I was going to do when I met James was pitch him on a product. And before I could even do it, he said, I'm not buying anything.
Sorry.
He was, which is what allowed me to sit. They were very warm and open. They weren't selling me anything. And so we had a conversation. And it was an eye-opening experience for me. And more so online this happens. So I want to open up this discussion because I know that everyone on this as featured guest today, we share the same beliefs. And that's why we are aligned the way we are. And that's why we all get along. Because I think the connector right here is me for the 11 of you. Myself. Some of you knew each other beforehand. But let's kick off this discussion and talk about alignment. What is alignment? And how do we do it? How do we find these right people, or as I call them, divine connections? Let's start off in the studio. All right.
Well, I'll say being open.
We'll pause it here.
What you're doing. I'm
5,
very
4, 3, 2.
Understand.
What? That brings back so many memories.
It does. Time flies though, man.
Doesn't it? That was back in the spring. And that was such a special moment because my treasured circle are the people that I chose to feature on that first episode. And the theme, of course, was my story, your story, our story, and how we create these stories collectively. Before we jump into your dialogue, I wanted to introduce everyone to Twilight. Twilight's our official mascot for Winter Wonderland. She was here for the first episode, so I figured I'd bring her back. She's a little misbehaved, but I think we'll keep her under wraps today. So let's talk about relationship matters and alignment and whatever's on your heart, Dr. Manny.
Yeah. So one of the first and most important relationships you'll ever have is with yourself. You define everything based off of your core values. Now, once you get clear on your core values, which is a process in itself, we spend most of our lives clarifying our contextual values and our core values, the values that don't change from situation to situation, the values that define who we are. So until you're clear with your core values, you don't really know what your story is. You don't know why you're here, what you're going to try to accomplish. And as such, you're sort of wishy-washy. You know, you meet someone, they have a good idea. They brought ice cream and sprinkles, and you're like, it's an ice cream and sprinkle day. Yeah. You know, they brought tofu. You're like, I'm a vegetarian today. But once you get clear on your ideas, then you're less reactive, which essentially means that even if you run into someone who's not on the same journey as you, because of the clarity and your alignment and the fact that you have a relationship with yourself, you don't see their individual journey as a threat because you have yours and you get it. And so you wish them well on their journey, or with the clarity of your journey, you're able to pause and go into their story, understand their story, suspend your disbelief and your skepticism about your limitations and your constraints, and imagine with them. Go on a journey with them. Then when you come back to your story, everything that they were capable of now is available to you on your journey. Essentially, if, for example, with us, I suck at art. I'm a mathematician. I'm like, well, it should have a right angle. And you're like, some colors? I'm like, gray, black, red. And you're like, should we use some gradients? I'm like, is there a formula? So when I started becoming vulnerable to your ideas and receptiveness and vulnerability, I kind of put them in the same window.
Okay.
When I opened up to your ideas, ideas of mine that I previously imagined in sort of a stunted, limited way, when I would imagine a show, I'd be like, well, if I do a show, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be straight for geeks because it's going to be math. It's going to be talking about neurochemistry. But I would talk to you about neurochemistry and you would spit back colors and music.
Right. Yes.
And I felt myself growing and taking risks because when I was hearing certain things back, I was feeling what is the vibe of my science, and I was able to step out on that faith of those feelings of believing in your abilities from your imagination and your clarity of vision.
Yeah. That you brought, ooh, Dr. Manny.
High
five. Wait, I gotta get
Ring the bell.
I gotta get the bell.
If y'all just tuning in for the first time, you don't know about the bell. The bell is live.
I got it, Mike. We're all informal in the Winter Wonderland. Wait.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
And if you're watching just through my live, you need to tune into WLVSradio.com so you can see all this.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just hearing bells and magical stuff. Go.
Okay. So you brought out a couple of things I want to talk about. For those of you that are tuned in, thank you for joining us. You're watching CLB Live with Dr. Manny, and we are walking in a winter wonderland. We're exploring, intellectual exploration, I should say, the notable moments of season 3, and we're starting with relationships. And you mentioned the people in our lives being a reflection or a mirror for things that we don't see, because our brilliance really is in our blind spot. And what you shared, I can totally relate to, because I never thought that I would be hosting a show for this length of time. And the people that I chose to surround myself with when I hosted the first show, they were like, this was specifically Jess, because this is all about celebrating these people that were on the show. So this was Jessica Duell. She was on the first show. She also had an episode, I think it was called Unstuck Quick, Act to Plan. And she was the one that really pushed me, both her and Nora actually, and said, this is what you should be doing. This is your zone, this is your lane. And just this morning you said something to me. I forget how you phrased it. When I was talking about the show flow and putting it together. Mm-hmm. Oh, you said that's mastery. Because I said, you were like, you plan that stuff? I'm like, yes, I have to. And he was like, it's not apparent. And so I need him to tell me these things, because you don't realize what you're doing. You don't realize your brilliance. You don't realize what your lane is. So I love that you shared that. So I want to touch on some of these comments. Look at my notes.
I see.
Let me show these people my notes. From the first episode, I was writing so frantically. So Regina, James, yourself, Teresa, Stephanie, Roy, and Phil all spoke to this alignment. Okay. And some of the things that stood out for me, you mentioned power dynamics, where people are projecting on each other. We're going to talk about that. Regina and James spoke about discovering ourselves, being authentic, and unworthiness. Let's start there. Let's dissect, flip, and sniff these 3
Every
thoughts.
time you say that, I blush a little.
Twilight. She's here to reset. Okay, so Regina, authenticity and self-discovery. Let's start there.
Okay.
What do you have to share about that?
About authenticity and self-discovery?
Yeah. And what does that have to do with relationships?
Well, everywhere you go, everyone you meet, you're there. Okay? So if you're being inauthentic, what you're essentially doing is you're surrounding yourself with people that aren't necessarily aligned with what you value. You're not really having a good time, but you've convinced yourself that if you can tolerate that person or that situation long enough, that there's a payoff at the end. And what ends up happening is increasingly you start to lose bits of yourself as you imagine yourself getting closer to that payoff. You know, people do this in relationships. They do it in careers, and you even do it. You start doing it from the time that you're young, and the reason is that we often conflate. If you grew up in a situation where either family, close friends, and people in positions to educate you conflated love and guilt and love and shame, a lot of times you felt as if in order to feel love, you had to be worthy and get out from under shame. And when you're that young, you're not really ready to differentiate which elements of me are worthy. You're just there, like you just want to feel safe and loved and surrounded. Yeah. And as such, you change who you are. You lose that authenticity. You quiet your curious, reckless spirit.
That childlike,
and you conform.
Yeah. See, this is why you're on the show with me. Because that's what James Cooper, Brother James, said, Pastor James, that he spoke about unworthiness. And he was basically piggybacking on Regina's thought on authenticity, just like you shared. If we don't truly know who we are, especially in today's world, because we're speaking to heart-centered entrepreneurs here. And so we jump online, especially even offline, and we put on this what we think other people need to see, and that has to do with unworthiness to a certain degree, right?
Yeah,
I'm here
you're
trying
looking
to share
for the reward
Facebook.
of the relationship.
You're looking for the reward in the relationship?
Well, of the relationship, because a lot of times, and this is the concept of social climbing, where you're meeting people who are where you want to be, and you think that if you surround yourself with enough of those people, you can siphon off some of their wealth, some of their happiness, some of their positivity, some of their riding around in nice cars, whatever. Right. But then you get all these symbolic things and you realize you're not happy. You're empty, you're miserable, and you're afraid. You're afraid that if you do anything that is intrinsically you, if you're natural, if you make a mistake, if you pick the wrong color, pick the wrong meal, use your fork wrong, that suddenly you're going to be ousted from the tribe.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be alone. So the reward, and what's most important about the alone is that if you're not being your authentic self, you don't believe that you're going to accomplish the thing that you're pursuing without the people. That's the codependency. That's the entanglement. So until you're authentic, you're not surrounded by people who love the true and natural you.
Yeah.
And then if you're not authentic, you don't attract people who can see your vision because they never really took the time to look at your vision. Really, you're living in their vision with their permission, with their set of rules that you don't really feel deeply. And as such, you got to listen to other people to figure out what to do in situations.
And that is a messed up place to be.
That's
it
inauthentic.
Really is. Now, I'm not saying I've never been there.
Been there.
It's a part of the journey.
Yeah.
And, to a certain degree, I still experience it because I believe self-discovery is an ongoing process. If we're not growing, we're dying. So it's a constant process of getting to know who am I today.
Yeah.
And am I attracting the right people for me? Am I aligning myself with the right people? This is very important for being successful in business. And successful is relative, right?
Yeah.
Success is how we define it. So that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. Embedded in that if you don't have your values clear, you're misdefining success because you didn't do the exercise of thinking through it. You stole someone else's idea of success and you're going to be mad when you get done with all the work because it's not going to fit. Yeah. It's like a suit off the shelf, off the rack.
Yeah. Don't you love... We are going to go all over the place in this Wonderland.
That's what
Remember,
I do.
there are no rules. Oh, look what Mike did. Did you see that?
What did he do? The snow?
Those snowflakes?
Oh, yeah. Only people who tuned in at WLVSradio.com can see the special effects. So if you're just looking up my nose, it's not as rewarding.
Yeah, no. The Facebook Live is just so we can pull you into the conversation and show you kind of a behind the scenes thing.
Yeah.
But if you want to see the whole beautiful scenery here, you have to tune into WLVSradio.com.
Yeah.
And look at our backdrop.
Yeah.
It's all new, guys. Yeah, so let's talk about power dynamics.
Okay.
We were talking about this a little bit in the car. And so, how does this, from your perspective, affect relationships?
Well, in each relationship, what you're dealing with is a situation in which you're putting out who you are, what you want to accomplish, your goals, and to a certain extent, your if you're in an effective relationship, you're broadcasting a bit of your weaknesses, because what you want to put out there is, this is me.
Yeah.
These are the places where you can add value to my life. These are my strong points, and as such, if that's one of your weak points, I got you. And you can trust me to get you, because I can't help but to do the things that I do. You know, like,
Love it.
I characterize myself as an idea hydrant. You come to me with something, within a couple minutes, I'll be like, bloop, try that. And you're like,
Yeah.
that is the dumbest thing. I'm like, but try it. Being stuck where you are is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. You know, not trying it is the dumbest thing. It's low cost.
Yeah.
So what happens is, it takes power to take your idea and revisit it, despite the fact that people outside you might be projecting their negative views on that idea onto you, because you're like, no, it's a possibility. It takes power to hold it in your mind long enough to make it into a clear vision that you can even communicate to people, into a story that you're willing to tell. It takes power to be bold enough to, takes power to have the courage to actually share the story and hold your breath and kind of wait to see how people respond to it, and let it be a true story. Now, in a twisted power dynamic, a person who is not really willing or able to listen to you, the whole time you're telling your story, they're like, you know, they're doing all this stuff. And if the power dynamic is such that you're seeking their approval, as opposed to seeking alignment and heading somewhere on a shared goal, what you're essentially dealing with is a situation that drains more energy, because the whole time you're telling the person where you want to get or what you're seeing, they're chopping down the vision. And we all know that's reductionist. That doesn't work, because if I'm trying to tell you how delicious cake is, and you're sitting there talking about flour is disgusting, eggs, ew, you put raw eggs in it?
Just throwing
Oh, you put that
negativity
sugar,
all
you gonna get
over it.
diabetes?
Yeah.
I don't even like the oven. I'm afraid of fire. If you're so preoccupied with the negative elements, the risk of the journey, and all the different elements, and you happen to be a powerful person, and you're imposing that negativity on someone, then you never get to that point of synergy. The ideal power dynamic is where you are living in your vision. You're working with people who see the vision for themselves. They see their place in the vision. They see their role in the vision. They're committed to the work.
Yeah.
And all of their power is going towards that. And when along the way, when you fall, when you need to lean, when you need to rest, they turn to you and they're like, yo, I got you, because I know where we're going. And I know that when it's your turn to take the wheel, you're going to do your 4 hours driving.
I love it.
That's on a 12-hour drive model, so you know. Sorry.
No. I'm having fun with this. My thought just went right out the window. Oh, the word understanding came to my heart.
Yeah.
So there's a part of us, it makes me think of Pamela. Hey, Pamela, if you're watching. She had a show a couple of days ago about understanding and humanity and dealing with each other in relationships. I haven't watched the replay yet, I have to be honest, but I think it's an important conversation, because that's something that we need to develop with each other. Understanding, patience, compassion. But until we can do that with ourselves, we won't be able to do that with each other. That's the key right there.
Yeah, you treat people that you love based off the models that you have in your mind of what love should be like. And again, as I said earlier, if you were taught to conflate love with guilt, and if you were taught to conflate love with shame, or love in a scarcity mindset where I'm gonna do this for you, and then until you do it for me, I'm going to be holding my breath and taking count in the relationship, then it's not gonna work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look at the time slipping away.
Yeah, man.
Keep on slipping,
That means we rolling.
All right, I'm not going to sing anymore.
Do it.
Okay. No. Maybe later. Okay, so let's touch on the next set of points for alignment from my beautiful, dear divine connections. I'm celebrating them today as well, because the whole point I would love to get across today is being intentional with the people that we are aligning ourselves with. And this group of people, they're 5 stars in my book, including this one right here.
Thank you. I'm blushing. Purple.
You're blushing. Try light. Okay, so Teresa Lacaraza, Stephanie Sims, Roy Montero, Phil Boyer.
Yeah.
We both know all the we know all these people.
We met through Stephanie. Stephanie.
Did we?
introduced us. Yeah.
Stephanie is such an amazing connector.
Yeah, she is. Hey, Steph.
I love her. I love you, Stephanie. And she's today's sponsor, too. We'll see her in
Yeah.
a second. Okay, so these four beautiful folks, Teresa touched on clarity, the golden rule, which you know is one of my core values. Stephanie touched on alignment in business and personal. She said that's something she comes across a lot where people are separating the two and not running their business based on what their life goals are, or forgetting about it, I should say. Roy Montero, you know I love his cut and dry, right?
Yeah.
He
Roy
speaks
gets done.
Bluntanese.
Yeah.
This is what he said. Hashtag bluntly. Hashtag Bluntanese. Hey,
Yeah,
Roy.
we met on Roy's show.
We did.
Yeah, 'cause
it
he
was
used to
our
have-
show. No, I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
it was you and Roy's show.
I
My
was just
bad.
the co-host. I was just the co-host. It was Roy's show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
we
quietly
did.
stepped back. I'm like, my bad.
No. Yeah, we did. We met on the Divine Connections. Is that what he called it? Masterclass, I think?
Yeah, it was Wednesday afternoons. We would meet up and broadcast,
Good
right?
memory.
Wasn't it?
Good memory.
And yeah, it was awesome because Roy had this powerful platform. And am I digressing too far? Because I want to describe it. If
This
we're talking
is what
about
Wonderland
folks,
is all about.
awesome. So Roy has this platform. Roy records everything.
Everything.
And Roy's like, yo, we say the brilliantest things, brilliantest being the most brilliant. We say the brilliantest things when we're being spontaneous. And as such, Roy records it, hours of it, and then later on, he's able to find these quotes and the moments that evoke those quotes.
Yeah.
So Roy had 4 hours every Wednesday where we would meet up and just exchange ideas.
It was awesome.
And CLB was there, and Steph and I, and Steph is our finance person. I mean, Steph knows how to get you funded,
She's the
how to know
ambassador
your
of
worth.
Quan.
She is the ambassador of Quan. She knows the numbers and how they connect to your heart. So
Yeah.
Steph was like, yo, I've got someone you got to meet. And then so Steph was like, drop by Roy's show on Wednesdays. So I got there, and you were there.
Yep.
And we've been good since.
You all right.
I'll
keep you
Yeah, right back at you.
Yeah. Yeah, so Roy, our Bluntanese expert, he says, I simply say no to the wrong people and yes to the right people.
Yeah.
And he's so good at that.
Yeah.
He has mastered that. I think it's in his DNA. He gets it from his dad, I believe. And last but certainly not least, Phil Boyer, who also was a featured guest on the show, dealt with honesty. He spoke to honesty with ourselves and with others. So clarity, alignment in business, personal, saying no versus yes, and honesty. Let's flip those around and sniff them a little bit.
Kidding me. Okay, so clarity, this goes back to vision. All this stuff is tied to one overriding metaphor that has been handed down for generations. And when I say metaphor, it's more effective if you say narrative or story. There's a story that we all tell ourselves. We each tell ourselves. And when you tap into the story that people who are succeeding tell it themselves and swap between each other, then you tap into what's called the collective unconscious. Okay? Now, the collective unconscious is this shared set of visions. It's breadcrumbs from people who for generations have been successful and figured out what to do. But if you're not listening to the story, if you don't believe and buy into the story, you end up deconstructing it like I was talking about with the cake. You end up talking about the pieces you dislike. Now, a vision, it's a core part of the whole metaphor is vision. You have to see the thing you want to accomplish. You have to see it in the first person. You have to lose yourself in it. The clarity crosses all senses. It's the clarity, I can see it clearly. You say that all the time. I can hear it clearly. You say that all the time. And if you've been around something funky, you could smell it clearly. We don't think about that much, but you smell something where you've been like, I know what that is, and I need you to clean that. Or when you're at a movie, you smell popcorn, it's on. You can smell it clearly. Yeah, you can smell it clearly. It's distinct. You can taste certain things clearly, and you can feel certain things clearly. If you're not doing those across the board, and then if you go into Napoleon Hill's Sixth Sense, if you're not intuiting it clearly, if you're not doing all those things, you don't have clarity. You're in a fuzzy space where you're kind of meandering. Now, the problem with the fuzzy space is that it doesn't feel real, because Like I'm around here, this feels real.
Right.
The cup is real. The cameras are real. You want the level of clarity where you can make stuff feel real, and you know that when you achieve it, when you get to it, it will feel. You can measure it against your values. You can see that it showcases your strengths. You feel safe there, and it was what you thought it would be.
Breathe.
Hey, Dr. Vogelman. Dr. V is on.
Dr. V. Oh, see,
Yeah.
you gotta do your camera like mine, so I have you in my frame.
For real?
Both
Okay,
aren't
what am I doing?
Facebook Live.
Okay, hold on. Let me get it.
See what I made him do?
I know, right?
See what I made him do? Yeah, so before we break for the sponsor, Divine Connection Spotlight is what I'm starting to call it. Let's bring this back to earth and kind of encapsulate. Hi, Dr. V.
I'll get it. Keep going.
We're trying to do everything at once. I love it. I've missed this energy on the show. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. I just have
I'm
to
happy
share
to be
that.
here. You know.
No, you don't have to put me all the way in the frame. I was just teasing you.
The technology be killing me. Go.
You're good. You're good. Okay, so before we break and transition to the second part of the conversation from the first episode of season 3, let's kind of encapsulate what we're sharing. Because one thing I know from personal experience is, we're taking in all of this information, and my intention for today's show is to really recall these things we've discussed and break it down so people can apply it.
Yeah.
Because for me, like many other people in this world, application is a missing ingredient in our process. So how do we apply what we're sharing here? Just what comes to your heart?
Well, you have to be present, because every opportunity for change or for behavior always happens in the now. You can sit around and you can complain about or be angry about things that have happened in the past, the mistakes that you've made, things people have said before. Or you could sit and worry about the future, or you can sit and dote in the future, this imaginary perfect future, but you have to tune into the now. What are the resources now? Who are the people around you now? What skills do you have now?
Yeah.
You have to take an accurate measure and an accepting, forgiving, like self-loving measure, and then move from there. Because otherwise you're going to move incorrectly.
I love it. Presence.
Yeah, you can only implement in now.
That's my word for 2017.
Now?
One word.
Or implement.
Presence.
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 Even better. It's got both in there.
Hashtag presence, honey. You know what the one for this year was, or is? Hashtag Meraki.
Okay, spell it.
Meraki, Meraki.
Yeah, man. Now tell them what it means.
It means infusing love, creativity, and soul into everything that we do. Doesn't that feel good to the soul?
Yeah, man. I need a nap. That was fantastic.
I need a sip of tea on that one.
I know, right?
Yeah. So, folks, you are tuned into CLB Live. You are a part of our Winter Wonderland. We're having fun. We're celebrating divine connections. We're talking about relationships. And we're just allowing this rabbit hole to take us wherever it goes. Just like Alice in Wonderland. Hey, y'all. Dr. V said something I like. Application, something the nation.
Let's see.
Go down.
Dr. V says a lot of brilliant stuff. Application
affects the nation. Boom. So we're going to transition and share our Divine Connection Spotlight, the beautiful people who support me and my dream on this show. And I fully support them in what they do. And Stephanie Sims has been someone who has helped me tremendously in the finance aspect of life. So let's cut to that and we'll be right back. I'm burning. Don't you love the snowflakes?
I do. I need my jacket.
That's hot.
Cold.
Burr. Because
Brr.
Burr. It's cold in here. Remember,
I got a heat over here next to me.
Are you cold?
Yeah, I'm cold.
Hey, you're not. These lights are doing it for me though. These lights got me right.
Oh, let me finish my hash brown.
Now, do you intend to have like there was a couple times you're talking where it was showing the TVs and stuff, the monitors. Is that what you want? Is that intentional?
Five,
I don't know.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to our Winter Wonderland, honey. This is our annual Winter Wonderland. This is the first one that Dr. Manny and I are hosting. We are hosting an interactive and intellectual exploration of Season 3's most notable moments. And today we're talking about Relationship Matters. That's how the season began. It's 11 featured guests, including Dr. Manny. It was my personal inner circle of divine connections that I was sharing with the world, basically, through WLVS radio. That day was such a special day. And so for the first part of today's show, we were exploring alignment in relationships. What does it mean? We spoke about core values. We spoke about other people reflecting our brilliance or not. We spoke about understanding. We spoke about presence. A lot of great points brought out in the first part of the show. So now we're going to transition to the second part of the conversation and the exploration. And it's going to touch on one of my favorite topics, creativity, and how relationships affect our creativity. So Mike, let's cut to the second clip and then we'll continue our conversation. And so, hey everyone, this is CLB Live. We're talking about relationships. We're actually celebrating relationships today. I'm celebrating my relationships with all these beautiful people. I'm celebrating the fact that CLB Live is now broadcasting through WLVS, which is awesome. And I'm in my favorite city, Washington, D.C., so I get to come into the city every week. I love that. And I'm also celebrating with you, that you are here carving out some time out of your busy weekend to just kick it off with some inspiration and some good conversation. And stick around, do not leave, because we are partying before we close this show out. Yeah, with music. All right, so now we're gonna switch gears and we're gonna talk about my favorite topic, creativity. That's what this brand is all about, honey. We are all created to be creators because we were made in the image of the Creator, right? So creativity is in all of us, not just some of us, but we manifest it in different ways. We have different gifts and talents, as you had mentioned earlier. So what does creativity have to do with relationships? Is there a connection? I'm going to use a quote. I thought this quote was fabulous. It's Mark Victor Hansen. You know Chicken Soup for the Soul, Mark Victor Hansen. It says, entrepreneurs have two basic assets, their creativity and their relationships. Hello. That is now my favorite quote officially. So let's kick off this conversation. Oh, yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Oh, yeah. I feel like I'm like 10 years younger in that episode. Have I grown that much this year?
You've grown spiritually. You're
I've
spiritually
grown.
10 years older now.
This season was about growth, which, #spoiler alert, next week we're going to be talking about growth, personal growth, because that's what this season was about for me. I am not a one-to-one type of show person. The first 2 seasons were a medley of people, just like on the first episode. But I thought I needed to grow this year. I had a life-changing... Oh, Dr. V, I'm drinking tea, honey. He asked what's in my cup. I'm drinking tea. Yeah. What's in your cup? Tell us on Facebook Live, okay? Yeah, so it's about growth for me. I went through a life-changing situation last year. One of my business that I was running for almost 10 years, my husband and I folded that business, and it just completely... I felt like a fish out of water. Are you giving me some showtime?
Yeah, man.
Bye. Yeah, this is how we are. This is plain conversation, folks. This is not formal, okay? But you're going to learn a lot through this exploration. So yeah, I started a show called CLB Live 1-to-1. Remember, Manny?
Yeah, I was on that at one point.
You were on that. That's where you told me that time only exists in relationships. And so that was, for me, an exploration of the power of divine connections. It was an on-demand series. You can find it on YouTube at ChristineLBowen.com/YouTube. The first 4 episodes, I believe, are there. And I'll be adding some more now that we're having this conversation. But when Listen Vision and Jeremy Beaver approached me to start broadcasting here every week, I thought, oh my gosh, CLB Live isn't a weekly show.
It is now.
It is now. I'm loving it. But yeah, I decided to have weekly one-to-one conversations, just like I do in private, and share them publicly. And I've had a lot of growth. Just a little zag there that I had to share. But the clip that we just shared, we are transitioning the conversation to how relationships affect our creativity, because you know I'm all about creative flow.
Yeah.
That is the zone of genius. When we are in flow, we are in the zone. And so that quote by Mark Victor Hansen is, I've adopted it as my signature quote, that our two greatest assets are our creativity and our relationships. So Dr. Manny, we had Kate Boyer, Eva Ignatovich. I love that last name.
I do too.
Gail Harris. I'm missing someone. Oh, Jess Duell. All spoke to this creativity and how it is connected with our relationship. So let's start with Kate and Jess. Kate spoke about being able to receive help, and Jess, agreements with self and others, honoring those agreements. So I'm going to allow you to riff on that.
Okay.
Or just go solo. Go with what's on your heart.
Well, no, I'm gonna blend it. Hold on. Okay, there we go. So.
Oh, see, now I got to change my camera view. Go.
Nah, we're good. I was just trying to balance with yours, man.
No,
Don't do that.
I'm going to change it.
Okay, so check this out. So when you're talking about creativity, you're essentially talking about the ability to extend your vision beyond what is right there in front of you. In a scientific space, creativity can be problem solving. So it's a matter of taking your imagination and making it independent of the environment.
Yeah.
Now, as we discussed earlier, why creativity works synergistically with your relationships is that in order to be truly creative, you have to believe something. You have to see it because it's not around you, clearly. So it's part of the story you're telling yourself. It's probably possibly a layer of meaning that you're applying to a situation so that you're able to see it from a different perspective and as such motivated to respond to it in a different way. Not react, because reaction is not creative. Responsive, productive stuff is creative. Stuff that changes the circumstances, okay? So now before you go out and you start acting and making changes to the environment, what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to receive the help from people that you trust to see what the environment is really like.
Yeah.
You know, and the vision I often get is the picture where you have two people trying to move a table and one guy's pushing and one guy's pulling and they're wondering why they're not getting anywhere. That's an ineffective way to receive help. If you're not able to be vulnerable enough to express your intention, what it is you're trying to accomplish and what that looks like, what that vision is, and then you have to be in a situation, a relationship, where the person is actually listening. And they say listen to understand as opposed to listening to reply. If the person is listening and they're in an ego defense mode where they want to just make sure you understand that they know what you're talking about or they know better, they're not really listening to see what it is you're painting. They're listening to project. They're listening to see what they already see and feel safe in their power dynamic there. That goes back to the power dynamic.
Yeah.
But if the person is receptive to your message and you in turn are receptive to their feedback, then you receive help. And the help that each person brings is the depth to which they've explored an area of complexity. And what drives that is curiosity. And what curiosity is really an application of your values to your daily actions and living. So, did I cover that?
You did. Yeah, that's a good start.
All right. I got more.
That's a good start. Yeah, sip your tea or your water.
Ice water. I'm ready.
Sip your water. No, we're on the same page. And what comes to my heart right now is this is an organic process. Relationships should not be force-ripe.
Yeah.
Force-ripe is a term from Jamaica. People always ask me, where's your accent? I'm from Jamaica, all right?
There it is.
Just
Found it.
I'm tired of that comment. But anyway, yeah, it's a term that we use in Jamaica to force ripe fruit that's not green, it's not ripe, it's what we call turn. And so a lot of people do this in life. They try to put their relationship in a brown paper bag or microwave it so that it's like instant relationship. And no. What we need to be doing is our self-discovery process, like we said in the beginning, and attracting those right people, because when we attract the right people, they will operate just like you shared. It'll be, when we're receiving help, you won't feel like, and I'm speaking from personal experience because I had to learn this. I'm the type of person that, still to a certain degree, but not as much, I used to want to do every single thing myself. I was one of the people that was like, if you want it done right, do it yourself type of a person. But it's because I didn't have the right people in my life. And so when you have the right people in your life and they offer that help, you all right.
I jump in.
You're on probation for 3 weeks, and we'll see if you make it to season 4.
Really?
No, you are one of these people. When that help is given, you don't feel like there's an ultimatum or some kind of shady or ulterior motive. It is pure, genuine help that you can receive to grow. And that's what I have learned over the last few years with my divine connections. So I like the way that you summarize that. Kate says it really well. Kate Boyer, she said, simply, everybody needs help.
Yeah. Yeah,
she shared a story on the show. I don't know if Mike can cue it up. I'm putting him on the spot. It's at 33:24. While he's doing that, she shared a story about, she used to be like me, and she is still to a certain degree because we are like uber creative. I think when you're in flow, it's one of the drawbacks. That's another conversation we need to have.
About living in flow? Living
in flow and still having those human tendencies where, because you're in flow and everything's moving and shaking, you feel like you have it under control, but you still need help.
Well, that depends on if I make it to season 4, really. Don't it?
So, do I hear an ultimatum?
No, that was. Oh wow! In public. In public.
Okay, Mike, did you cue that up? Okay, it's not a big deal if you can't find it, but yeah. So let's talk about creativity. Now, an agreement with self and others, our personal agreements, and then Eva touched on using the word talent versus creativity, because a lot of people think, as she shared in the show, that creativity is tied to the art world, like painting, sculpting, those types of things, artsy-fartsy things.
Yeah. Creativity happens anytime you don't conform. Okay?
That is a notable quote.
Thank you. Anytime you, and you know, I'll put some qualifiers on that. Because sometimes people don't conform and they react and they're a rebel. If your non-conforming action is not aligned with your values, it doesn't move you any closer towards your goal.
Yeah.
And as such, it's essentially self-sabotage. You know, you got your licks in, you hurt someone's feelings, you give them a piece of your mind, whatever, but you're no closer to where you wanted to be. Oh, he put snow on the screen.
It's
Look.
cold in here. It's snowing on the screen, guys.
Only if you're watching it on WLVSradio.com.
Y'all need to know DJ Mike. He is amazing. He's so creative. All right, Mike, let's see it. Let's see the clip.
We have all the time. Yeah.
We'll be here when you get
Winnie the Pooh inspires me.
Is it
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
What was the question again?
How do relationships impact our creativity? In what way?
Oh, they're huge, but I actually want to tell a quick story about how, even though Phil and I, business-wise, I'll just talk about, we connect. We are able to throw things at each other and see what sticks, and we listen. We really grow together as we're being creative, and we listen to each other. But recently, I'm writing a series called the Lost Angel series. It's a fiction trilogy. And I'd already written the first book. I had the second book, the whole really good rough draft, from start to finish, and an idea for the third book. But I just felt like it was my baby. It was my thing. And I was going to do every part of it, except for the editing, because I'm terrible at punctuation. But otherwise, it was all me. And finally, you know, one day Phil and I sat down and we had this talk about everybody needs help. That this is still my thing, it's my baby, it's all me, but yet it's okay for me to still ask for help. And even though we've had years of helping each other, being creative, giving, you know, support, for some reason I just didn't get it with this book. It was like, no, this is mine. And it was really hard for me to actually sit back and say, you know what, I do need help.
I feel her on that, right? Could you totally relate to what she was saying?
Most definitely. I cling to my ideas and I hide them.
Me too. I try to protect my stuff.
Yeah.
I've learned to open up, as I shared with my divine connection with you and with all the folks that were on that first episode. I've been able to share things that I would never have shared in the past. But when it's in a trusted circle, within a trusted circle, I should say, you feel safe. And
especially if they share your values.
If they share your values, exactly. So we are wrapping it up. Can you believe the time's done?
Teleported.
I don't want to go. What are your closing thoughts?
Y'all be back next week. I mean, we're just getting rolling.
We're just getting started. And you know what? You don't have to wait until next week. Hop on over to clblive.tv. We'll have our Facebook Live feeds there. We'll, put the replay up by Monday. I don't think I have to do much editing on this one. Do I?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think we had a good, clean show. Mike, thank you for your expertise.
Thanks, Mike.
This guy is amazing. Wherever you all found him from, keep him! Yeah, so we're just getting started.
Yeah.
This may be an ongoing. Are we only going to do this once a year? Our annual Winter Wonderland?
Well, I mean, if we do a Winter Wonderland in the middle of summer,
why not?
It's dissonant.
It's Christmas in July.
It is very Alice in Wonderland, though.
That's what I'm saying.
It would be just twisted enough.
On the Facebook pre-show convo, I said when we change the way we look at things we look at begin to change. That's what this is all about.
Yeah, man.
Okay, folks, we're tuning out. Dr. Manny I, and Twilight. You're lucky you came today. Yeah, we're tuning out. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. On behalf of Dr. Manny, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you all for tuning in on Facebook Live as well. We'll be doing it next week as well. You can hop on over to christinelbowen.com/YouTube to watch all of our beautiful Divine Connections and their featured episodes from season 3. A lot of the folks on the panel had their own show and discussion with me, which I treasure very much. And most importantly, I treasure each and every one of you. All of you who tune in every single week and support behind the scenes, you are appreciated. You don't go unnoticed. Trust me on that. Am I forgetting anything? I think we're good. I think we're good. Divine Connections video. Thanks, Mike. So we're going to cue up that video so you can see the shows that were hosted and the discussions we had, and then we'll close out. Today's closing video is Imagine by John Lennon. See you next week.
It's not 12 o'clock yet, so it's still got some time.